Man has always believed he could stand against heaven, but when the wrath of God is revealed, no shield will protect him. The 7 bowls of the final judgment are not myths or symbols to be ignored. They are real strikes of justice against a rebellion that has lasted for millennia. Here, history reaches its climax, where everything built on lies is crushed. Each bowl carries a weight no earthly power can bear. The sea turns to blood, the sun burns like fire, and darkness engulfs thrones once thought unshakable. These are not random disasters, but precise acts of a God who no longer remains silent. Judgment is no longer a distant future to fear. It is a reality drawing closer with every heartbeat. And the question rises like an echo within the soul. Who can stand when these bowls are poured out? Who will survive when everything shakes and every illusion falls? This journey is more than words. It is a glimpse into the final chapter of human history. If you don't want to miss what is to come, press subscribe and follow the unfolding revelation. When the first bowl is poured out upon the earth, the silence many thought would last forever is shattered. Those who bear the mark of the beast suddenly find themselves struck with painful, incurable sores. They spread across their bodies like fire beneath the skin, wounds that neither time nor medicine can heal. It is as if the very mark they once carried with pride now burns from within, transformed into a curse that can never be removed. The mark that once promised safety and belonging has now become a judgment upon their bodies. What was once their pride has now become their downfall. For the one who tied his life to the beast has, in truth, tied himself to his own condemnation. This pain is not random. It strikes precisely where betrayal began, in the heart that chose darkness over light. The screams filling the air become a testimony to all who still look on. No one can hide any longer behind power or deceptive words. The torment exposes where their loyalty truly led. These sores are more than physical. They are mirrors of the soul, where rebellion against the Creator can no longer be concealed. Those who boasted of their strength now collapse as if struck down. Those who bragged about their power and their mark now gnash their teeth in despair. There is no deliverance, no comfort, only a burning reality that never fades. Too late they realize that what they traded their freedom for has now bound them in eternal pain. And yet, in the midst of their anguish, there remains a quiet reminder. This is only the beginning. The first bowl is not the end, but the opening of a judgment that will, step by step, unveil all of humanity's arrogance. The very earth itself begins to testify that God is silent no longer. Those who watch are seized with trembling. Some feel a chilling fear, while others harden their hearts even further. But there is no longer any doubt. Justice is no longer hidden. It is seen, it is felt, it pierces through flesh and blood. The first bowl has torn away the mask from the followers of the beast and revealed what their choice truly meant. As pain consumes their bodies and darkness their minds, one question rises in the shadows. Who still dares to stand on the beast's side? The first bowl has only opened the door, and the road ahead will grow heavier still. Leave a comment below. What awakening does this first bowl stir within you? When the second bowl is poured out upon the sea, the world witnesses a catastrophe beyond the reach of simple words. The waters, which from the beginning had been the fountain of life, are turned into blood, dark and stagnant, as if from a corpse. Every wave crashing upon the shore carries the stench of decay, and the entire sea becomes like a massive grave. All living creatures in the sea die. Fish, whales, turtles, all that once moved freely in the depths now float lifeless on the surface. The rhythm that had been the heartbeat of the earth in the sound of the waves is replaced by silence, a silence louder than screams. No ship sails in safety, no harbor smells of fresh waters, for all is drowned in the color of death. This is a judgment that cuts deeply, for the sea has always been a symbol of abundance, trade, life, and movement. Now it is nothing but a mirror of decay, a sign that when God strikes, no part of his creation can escape. What once brought food has now become a curse, threatening the lives of all who depended on it. People watch in shock, but instead of understanding, they cling tightly to their idols. They refuse to acknowledge that this is the hand of God. Their eyes see the blood, their noses smell the stench, their stomachs ache from hunger, yet their hearts remain hard. They stand in the midst of judgment, yet refuse to bow. And it is not only the death of the sea that speaks, but also its meaning. The sea has always symbolized chaos and forces beyond human control. Now God shows that even that chaos rests in his hand. And when he turns it into blood, nothing can hold back his wrath. The trade routes that once brought wealth grind to a halt. Cities that thrived on the treasures of the sea lose their foundation. The sea, once a doorway to prosperity, becomes a doorway to destruction. No one can claim mastery over the world's lifeblood anymore. Everything has stopped, and the world falls into a silence darker than before. And in the midst of it all, mankind asks, if even the sea can be turned to blood, what remains unshaken? The second bowl shows that when God's wrath overflows, even the very foundations of life we once thought secure will tremble. If you want this message to reach more people, press like, a simple way to spread the word. When the third bowl is poured out, it is no longer the great seas that are struck, but the rivers and springs, the clean waters that mankind drinks, the very source that sustains life on earth. What once flowed clear between the rocks, what once streamed as a blessing through the landscapes, now becomes blood. The one who bends down to quench his thirst no longer finds life, but death. This judgment cuts closer than the sea's destruction. The sea affects trade and wealth, but the rivers are the very pulse of survival. When the springs turn to blood, it means mankind can no longer hide from the consequences of its deeds. The most basic foundation of life itself has become a curse, and in the midst of this torment, the voice of an angel resounds. It declares that this judgment is just, for the blood now filling the rivers is the very blood once shed from God's servants and saints. The earth that drank the blood of the martyrs now pours it back in rivers no one can escape. It is a righteous repayment, a judgment as heavy as the sins that called it forth. Mankind may cry out that it is cruelty, but heaven itself answers, this is justice. When blood has cried from the ground for generations, when the cries of the innocent have echoed without reply, God can no longer remain silent. The waters that should have given life now stand as reminders of all the lives unjustly taken. Those who attempt to drink from these waters find only bitterness in their mouths. The burning thirst in their throats becomes unbearable, yet nothing quenches it. They wanted to live without God's justice, and now they live without his blessing. Even their thirst testifies to an eternal emptiness. And yet, even in the midst of this suffering, a glimpse of truth shines through. There is no sin unseen by God, no blood that does not weigh heavily before him. When the rivers flow red, it is not only a judgment upon the world, it is a declaration that no wrong will remain forgotten. As mankind gazes upon these crimson waters, they see reflected the mirror of their own history. Everything they built upon violence, injustice, and oppression now comes surging back against them. The rivers carry their deeds like a reflection, and the springs cry out that no one can escape. When the fourth bowl is poured out, the sun is no longer a source of light and warmth, but of consuming fire. The rays that once gave life to the earth turn into blades that scorch the skin and pierce through the flesh. The heat becomes unbearable, as if heaven itself had turned against those who refused to acknowledge their Lord. People grow faint under the blazing heat and drought. Their bodies crack from thirst and pain. Yet instead of lifting their voices in prayer, they raise them in blasphemy. They curse God because of their torment, but their hearts do not soften. Even as the sun burns their skin, they still refuse to bow. This judgment reveals not only the power of God, but also the hardness of man's heart. This judgment is not a blind disaster. It is precise, deliberate, and purposeful. The sun, which had always been a symbol of life and abundance, now becomes an instrument of judgment. It is as though God is showing that no part of his creation is neutral. All is in his hand. And when he speaks through the elements, nothing can resist. People seek shade, but find none. They hide among ruins and beg for relief, but no relief remains. Every ray is a reminder. Those who reject the light must face its heat in judgment. The light created to guide has now become a fire that consumes. And yet, even here, amid the flames, there is still a message. Man's response to suffering exposes his heart. Those who harden themselves prove that it is not pain that prevents repentance, but pride. They are not only scorched by the sun, they are consumed by their refusal to accept the truth. The land dries up, crops wither, animals die, and everything mankind once called natural order collapses. The sun, which no one could ever control, is revealed as an instrument of the Lord himself. The fourth bowl is a reminder that no power in the universe is greater than God's. And as flames dance over a burning world, one question echoes in the ashes. If even the sun no longer remains gentle, what hope is left for humanity? The judgment is clear. Those who reject the light of God will face its fire. If you believe this is a message the world needs to hear, give this video a heart. When the fifth bowl is poured out, it no longer strikes nature, but the very heart of evil's power. The throne of the beast, his kingdom and center, is swallowed by an impenetrable darkness. This is not the ordinary darkness of night, but a terror so thick it can be felt in the body, a darkness that suffocates hope and shatters every illusion of power. Those who followed the beast now find themselves lost in a world without light. They crawl as though blind, gnawing their tongues in agony, writhing in despair. Even their cries are muffled in the heavy gloom, as if the very air refuses to carry their voices. The one who thought he stood in victory is now enveloped in the shadow of defeat. This is more than physical torment. The darkness is a symbol, a revelation that the reign of evil has no future. The throne that seemed to rule the world is revealed as a fragile chair built on lies. When the light is removed, it becomes clear that nothing enduring was ever there. They curse God in their pain, but their words echo into emptiness. The darkness does not open their eyes, it only exposes their refusal to see. They bite their tongues, but their hearts remain hardened. They still choose pride over humility, even as everything around them collapses. This darkness is a judgment upon power itself. The throne of the beast, the very place from which his rebellion was waged, becomes a monument of defeat. The symbol is clear. Even the mightiest fortress falls when God rises. No kingdom, no throne, no power can stand against his hand. The earth that once saw the beast's dazzling power now witnesses his helplessness. Where once there was celebration, now there is wailing. Where there was arrogance, now there is silence. And in that void, it becomes clear, it is not only individuals being judged, but the entire system of darkness in which they placed their hope. Thus, the fifth bowl becomes a preview of the end, a confirmation that darkness can never wear the crown of victory. It can only destroy, confuse, and consume. When the light is withdrawn, nothing remains but despair. Share your thoughts in the comments. What does this darkness over the beast's throne say to you? When the sixth bowl is poured out, judgment falls upon one of history's greatest symbols, the river Euphrates. The river once called the lifeline of civilizations, the border of kingdoms, now dries up completely. What for thousands of years had been a barrier, a wall of protection, becomes an open road. The world looks on as the mighty river vanishes, and the dry ground stands like an invitation to conquest. This is no natural drought, but an act of God. The Euphrates dries up, not to save, but to prepare the way. A path opens for the kings from the east, a vast army that represents not just nations, but the ultimate culmination of the world's rebellion. As the ground hardens, the final battlefield of history draws near. Out of the darkness come three unclean spirits resembling frogs. They emerge from the mouth of the dragon, from the mouth of the beast, and from the mouth of the false prophet. These spirits are demons, messengers of lies, sent to gather the kings of the earth. They go out across the world, luring, deceiving, and driving nations toward the last great uprising, Armageddon. Here, a profound truth is revealed. Man believes he prepares for war by his own will, yet behind it all, unseen powers are at work. Behind political decisions, behind cries of strength and honor, these spirits move, guiding the nations to their downfall. Armageddon is not merely a clash of armies, it is the ultimate confrontation between light and darkness. Yet in the midst of this terrifying vision, the Lord speaks, "Behold, I come like a thief." The judgment is not only a threat, it is a warning. A call to remain awake, not to fall into complacency, for the day of reckoning comes swiftly. The dried-up river stands as a symbol that no obstacles remain, nothing blocks the way to the final conflict. And as the nations march toward their destiny, it is as if all of history is being pressed into a single point where everything will be resolved. And as the world gathers its armies, one question echoes through the darkness. If the armies of earth unite in rebellion, who can stand against the Lord when he comes in his power? When the seventh bowl is poured out, judgment reaches its climax. A voice from heaven declares, "It is done." At that very moment, the entire earth shakes with an earthquake unlike anything ever known. No disaster in history can compare. Mountains collapse, cities crumble into ruins, and islands vanish as if erased from the sea. It is as though the very earth can no longer bear the weight of humanity's rebellion laid upon it. People run in panic, but there is nowhere to hide. The buildings they once trusted fall before their eyes. Roads split apart, the ground opens wide, and everything once thought unshakable is reduced to fragments. It is as if creation itself rises to testify against its inhabitants. Hailstones the size of a talent rain down, crushing everything they strike. Roofs shatter, fields are destroyed, and people cower in vain. Yet instead of crying out to God for help, they once again lift their voices in blasphemy. The judgment reveals their refusal to repent, even as the world collapses around them. The great city is split into three parts, and the capitals of the nations fall. The centers of human power, where strength was gathered, lose their foundation. Both symbolically and literally, it shows that everything built apart from God is destined to fall. No wall stands, no throne remains untouched. The mountains that for generations were thought immovable disappear. What mankind once called unshakable is revealed to be temporary dust beneath the weight of eternity. The world once considered stable becomes a landscape of chaos, and here the deepest truth is unveiled. Nothing endures outside of God. Yet this is not mere destruction. It is fulfillment. The voice from heaven marks the end. History has reached its final point, and the clock of justice has struck its last hour. Judgment is no longer a shadow of the future. It has become reality. And as the world is crushed under the power of the quake, one thing is clear: no one can stand when God rises. This is the peak of his wrath, but also the opening to his victory. For when everything else falls, Christ alone remains standing. The 7 bowls are not meaningless disasters, nor are they blind strikes against the earth. Each bowl carries meaning, a precise and righteous act. They reveal that God does not act out of whim, but out of holy consequence. Judgment is not chaos, but order. Every step is a response to the choices of humanity and to the weight of sin that has cried out from the earth for thousands of years. They open the eyes to a truth often ignored, that God is not only grace, but also justice. Those who despised his patience now see his holiness in action. The bowls show that no crime is forgotten, no blood of martyrs has cried out in vain, and no rebellion goes unanswered. At the same time, they are a mirror of revelation. They not only display the fall of the world, but also the heart of man. With each bowl poured out, most refuse to repent. Instead of prayer, they choose blasphemy. Instead of humility, they cling to pride. The bowls are a trial that not only judges deeds, but exposes the very core of the soul. But beyond this, they are a testimony of Christ's victory. With every power that collapses and every throne that crumbles, it becomes clear that the Lamb has no rival. Evil may gather its armies, raise its banners, and boast in arrogance, but before the wrath of God, all will fall. The 7 bowls also reveal something greater. History does not end in darkness. Judgment is not the final destination, but the pathway to renewal. When all evil is crushed, when every lie is reduced to ashes, victory shines clear. It is not merely the end of an age, but the beginning of an eternity where righteousness reigns. This is why the bowls are necessary. They show the weight of sin, but also the purity of God's holiness. They leave no room for indifference, no space for compromise. They are the answer to every cry for justice, and at the same time, the doorway to ultimate freedom. And when the final bowl is emptied, it becomes unmistakably clear. Everything points to Christ. He is the one who triumphs. He is the one who remains when all else has fallen. Judgment is not the end of hope. It is the beginning of true victory. If you want to continue witnessing these revelations and not miss what comes next, make sure to subscribe and stay close, because much more is yet to be uncovered.